All right, here's the claimed afarensis discoveries. We have Lucy, the AL288-1. Okay, this was the one that Johansen first came out with, and well, first they found the knee bone or the knee joint, and then they went and found the family. Go ahead and go to the next find. That's the Dikika child. And these right here, starting with the most complete finds of the afarensis, working down so far to the less complete finds. So you have Dikika child, which actually like this is a less complete skeletal find than the Lucy find, but it's more recent. Go on down to the next one. Here we have just a skull, which is made up of fragments. Can we see the info? I believe this is Miss Plus. Or sorry. Oh, maybe not. Yeah, that's 44 AL444. All right, so that is not Miss Plus. But go on down because I think that's actually a Africanus. That's Miss Plus. This right here, this pile of bones on this table, if you scoot down, this is AL333. This is a collection of remains that was found in phase 1 of the dig at the Afar region in Ethiopia where Johansen was working with his team. Basically, these are surface finds, and they went across the hill, him and his group of students, and they picked up these finds in what's called phase 1, which is like year 1 or something of the dig of 1973 to 1976 or some such thing. So you have these bones that were pulled from the surface of an eroding hillside. Okay, this isn't necessarily Lucy. These are all the remains of Lucy's family, supposedly, and that's why it's called the first family. It's referred to as the first family. If you want to scroll down beyond that, we'll talk about the next one. This was one of the very first discoveries at the Afar region in Ethiopia, and this was this knee joint. This is AL129, I believe. If you scroll down a little bit, yeah, all right. The first knee joint discovered claimed to be of the AAU afarensis. It was discovered during phase 1 search of the Hadar hillside site. Go ahead and scroll down. We'll take a look at Lucy first off. And this might take up most of our time here. So here's a picture of Lucy's kind, the afarensis. I don't know if this is supposed to be Lucy, but this is one of the replicas of what is supposed to be Lucy at one of the history museums. Go ahead and down. And that's what I mean. Again, look at the feet there. You have human feet, you know, and that's the main thing I want to point out. So in 1974, they found Lucy, or he actually announced it. This is the most complete afarensis, as I said, that they have. In fact, it's the most complete Australopithecine that's of a known claimed species. Because there's one that's more complete, say, if you want to call them complete. Because, I mean, Lucy really represents about 40% of a skeleton. You know, and like if you reflect it, then maybe you get like 70, 80%. You know, but that, yeah, I know. But see, they still don't have the hands or feet of any of these things, especially like the big skeletons. Okay, Grayson. So you have Lucy, she's missing her feet, she's missing her hands. You got Littlefoot missing the feet. They got blown off in an explosion, so they say. Keep on scrolling. We'll work our way down to it. Here's some money with Lucy on it. The Great Britain minted a coin, 3 million years, 1 crown. All right, let's head on down to the Sacrum comparison. Now, this is my big deal right here that I'll talk about, you know. The Sacrum comparison, here we have a human sacrum, a female human sacrum next to Lucy's sacrum, and a chimpanzee sacrum, all female, you know. You can see that the chimpanzee is much different than a human sacrum, okay? One of the misconceptions that they're always pushing is that there's many complete skeletons of these animals, and there's none. There's no complete skeletons. They push that they were found articulated, like the bones were connected when they were found, but there was none that were found completely articulated. There's some misconceptions going around that Littlefoot was found articulated, but it wasn't. But we'll get into that later, I'm sure. The Sacrum comparison here, is a sacrum comparing the human female sacrum, Lucy's sacrum, and chimpanzee sacrum. As you can see, Lucy's sacrum looks quite like a human female sacrum. And this was reflected in the literature written by Lovejoy and Johansen. But Johansen really never gave dimensions of the sacrum. But Lovejoy was more of a pelvic expert as far as the Australopithecine go. So he really just handed the parts to Lovejoy, and together they kind of interpreted their finds. But what we have here is, I got to say, it's my position that this is a human sacrum. Okay, not Lucy's sacrum. I don't know who it belonged to, but it belonged to a female human. Okay, it is so human-like. There's another misconception about the sacrum going around, that it's smaller than a human sacrum. Okay, well, this might be because there's half-size pieces that were going around, castings that were half-size, that were cheaper to be bought by people like paleoanthropologists to show the Lucy bones to people. But they were selling half-size model of these things. Now, when you actually start to research it, and you go and you find the dimensions that were given by Lovejoy, who was the one that actually interpreted the fossils and the pelvic remains, you find that the dimensions are quite like a human sacrum, and we'll get into that in a second. But I just want to put that my position is that that is a human sacrum, and that these conglomerations are made up of human and tree-dwelling ape remains of animals and humans that you can still find today modernly. Some of them have been reconstructed, and if you find ones that are different or out of the range of humanity or out of the range of a chimp, it's probably because of the fossilization process deforming them, or somebody, reconstructing one of these pieces or one of these remains, and then finding that it's outside of range of one of the modern animals now. But you can see which ones have been reconstructed and which ones were found in a whole piece. As far as this Lucy sacrum here, this sacrum, this human-looking sacrum that is included in the AL 288-1 conglomeration, it is the same dimensions as a human sacrum, a human female sacrum. And you might shake your head, because I know that's the misconception that's going around, and that might be something someone handed you for this, Grayson. But if you scroll down, we'll see that Lovejoy actually measured it. First, we're going to talk about the ilium, though. Now, the ilium is the wing, the pelvic wing, basically the pelvic blade that goes off of the sacrum. It connects to the sacrum, and it's also where the femur connects to the hip. The hip is the hip bone. So scrolling down, we'll see Lucy. This is Lucy's hip bone, which looks quite human, but I know it looks different. But there's a reason for that. You see, that ilium there that you see the arrow pointing to is reconstruction, and they actually put that together piece by piece. That's one of the bones that was actually pulled out of the hillside instead of pulled off the surface, that didn't erode out of the hillside, because that's why it's reconstructed, I guess, is it was pulled out of the hillside piece by piece and then stuck together with some kind of epoxy. And that's what you have there. Now, the one on the left side is a replica of an inverted replica of the one on the right. So, like I said, if you reflect what you have, then if it's a bipedal thing, you should be able to see the other side too, which makes sense. Scrolling down, we'll see, according to Donald Johansen, the paleoanthropologist who discovered Lucy conglomeration, the ilium was fragmented when he first saw it, and several pieces were missing. In his book, Lucy, The Beginnings of Humankind, Johansen describes how he and his team excavated the fragments of ilium from the side of the eroding hill and reconstructed the ilium included in the AL 288-1 conglomeration. We turn to the ilium, the large hip bone, which was badly fragmented. The back edge was missing, as was the upper portion near the hip joint. The remaining pieces, however, showed that the bone was curved like a hockey stick. We excavated slowly, removing the bone bit by bit, and placed the fragments together like a three-dimensional jigsaw puzzle. By the end of the day, we had reconstructed a large part of the ilium. So go on and scroll down there. You'll see this is the human sacrum That's pictured in that comparison, and or featured in that comparison there, and it's also with its ilia. Now it's important to note that between the ilium here, you can see it, so this is a perfect place for it to stop. The ilium of the human is less flared than the ilium of the Lucy, of the AL288-1 conglomeration. Okay, so the ilium included in there has this flare, and that's what a lot of people are talking about, is that it's more flared than a modern human sacrum, and that's what the big difference is. And once you realize that it's a reconstruction and they shaped it themselves, you know, the ilium is pretty much disqualified, in my opinion, as far as something that could be used as evidence for one of these Australopithecine, or we should really look into, or they should make it available enough to make sure that they didn't, you know, manufacture what that's supposed to look like. Because especially when you look at the sacrum and how human it is and what they actually say about it themselves, like the doctors that discovered it, which we're going to get into next. So why don't you go ahead and scroll on to the next page for me? No, okay, let's talk about this too. This is the chimpanzee sacrum. And like I said, another misconception that's going around being pushed is that humans are apes by these guys. Humans are not apes. They all have a sacrum like this. Human sacrums are much different. Okay? You can tell a human sacrum from an ape sacrum. That's how you know humans are not apes. They're much different. I mean, you can tell the difference between a gorilla and a chimpanzee sacrum too, but it's not the difference between the human and the chimp, being that the human sacrum has 5 sacral vertebrae connected and fused, whereas the chimpanzee has 6. Okay, so and you'll notice that the ape has 10 sacral foramina, and those are the holes that the nerves and the muscles run through for your butt. Why don't you go back up to the human? Actually, I want to point something out here about this. This has 8 sacral foramina. Humans have 8 sacral foramina. Every human sacrum does, unless they're missing one of their sacral joints. So we've got, and then you go down to Lucy here, and we'll see that her sacrum is quite like a human's, being that it has 8 sacral foramina too. If you'll scroll down to Lucy's sacrum again. All right, so we'll see right here that there's 8 sacral foramina in this sacrum, but you'll see that the very bottom joint seems to be missing a portion of the sacrum on either side. And I point that out in my video in red there. There appears to be a portion missing from either side, making the sacrum bottom angled and leaving the last set of foramina open. And I asked, you know, like, it looks pretty even, like the wear and tear. If it is wear and tear just from fossilization that removed those parts, you know, it's possible that it happened equally on both sides. But I also wonder if it wasn't altered in some way to look more angled at the bottom. But that's one of my ponderings, and that's something I wanted to ask Gibbons about, but she declined to debate with me. If we move down to the next slide here, and let's just get to the info. Okay, our observations suggest, this is from Russo. Yeah, I'm going to read this info, though, if you got time.
Mark, I just wanted to jump in. You got about a minute if you want to start winding things down. Okay. Time flies, I know.
It does. Well, I did get that one part out. I mean, we can talk about the other stuff in the discussion, so.